Am I the idiot for yelling at my son after he insulted my injury? I, 43, male, suffered a pretty serious leg injury about a decade ago. While my leg has largely healed, I still walk with somewhat of a limp and occasionally use a cane. I still try to be active, but have accepted that I will never move like I used to again. Because of my injury, I've been limited in how many sports I could play with my son, 15, male, but have spent time with him in other ways. I recently got back into hiking, an activity my son also enjoys, and invited him to join me on a short hike on a trail a short drive from our house this weekend. I had been very busy over the past few weeks with work, and my son just started summer vacation, so I was really looking forward to the bonding experience. My son was initially excited to go but seemed to become less enthusiastic as the date got closer. Yesterday, I got back from work a little earlier than usual. I could hear my son in the basement playing video games and chatting with a few of his friends. I don't think they realized that I was home. I set up in the living room to do some paperwork when I heard one of my son's friends ask him if he was going with them to the cinema this weekend. My son declined and stated, "I can't, I have to take my crippled dad to see birds and shit." Hearing him say that hurt, but then he continued into how boring the experience would be and how slowly I would be moving. He made several more comments about how I'm learning how to walk, and how he and my wife need to give me encouragement like I'm some sort of toddler. I could not concentrate on my work anymore, so I just sat there feeling upset and furious. About 20 minutes later, they came upstairs. I think they could all sense I was angry as all my son's friends said, "Goodbye," before heading out. My son asked me then if everything was okay, so I told him what I heard him saying. He said that it was out of context and not representative of what he actually thought. He apologized and said that he was just making a few jokes for his friends. He then went on to add how it was tough for him as he was the only one in his group who had a dad like this. I was annoyed and more upset by this and told him that he was an idiot for being the only person there who would make such jokes about their own father, and I said that he had a sick sense of humor. My son apologized again, and then I asked him to leave me alone. He went into his room, closing the door. My wife came back from work later, and I told her everything. She was mortified but thought my reaction was excessive. Needless to say, I canceled the trip, did not communicate this with my son, and went into the office this morning to finish some work. Am I the idiot? Update and context. I would like to start by thanking everyone who responded to this post, especially those who have made supportive comments and/or offered advice. I must clarify that my surprise and disappointment stem from the fact that my son had never previously criticized me for my leg injury. Initially, my wife was slow to respond to the situation, and I don't think she fully grasped all the information at first. Although she initially considered my reaction excessive, she has since apologized for that and has become very upset about the incident. Yesterday, the day after the argument, after I left for work, my wife had a lengthy conversation with our son. When I returned home, she informed me that she had reprimanded him, stating that his words were shameful and reflected poorly on himself. Overall, she did use sharper language than myself when I first confronted him. Their conversation ended there because my wife had to go to work, but she has expressed that she is still largely angry with him. Today, I plan on having another conversation with my son to address the issue further, and the next steps taken will depend on the outcome of that discussion. Final update. I spoke with my son today, and he apologized again. He expressed a truly heartfelt apology, acknowledging the difficulties my injury has brought to my life. He said that he realized he was selfish for assuming that my injury was harder on him than on me. He assured me that he sees me as capable of anything and genuinely admires and appreciates the effort I put into spending time with him. The apology was a deeply emotional moment for both of us, and I wholeheartedly accepted it. I told him how proud he made me feel, emphasizing that I completely forgave him and that nothing brings me more joy than spending time with him. I also did say that his feelings of hardship due to my injury were perfectly valid. While my son was happy with my response, he still appeared to be deeply upset. I can only hope that he can find it within himself to forgive himself now. We have also decided to reschedule our hiking trip to next weekend now. Here are the comments. Your son sounds very ungrateful for you trying your best to be an active parent in his life. You both need space from each other. And your wife needs to understand that if he's so willing to make rude remarks about his own father's injury, what could he be saying about strangers who are dealing with similar injuries? The situation is not to be taken lightly and shouldn't be ignored because he's a child. He's old enough to know his words are harmful. Comment 2. Brutal man, freaking brutal. Cancel that hike with him, let him do his own thing. You focus on you and keep up with the hobbies you love. In time you can get over this and try find some hobbies that work with him. For now you should explain to him the concept of respect, bullying, and what it means to have class. Tell him you definitely feel unloved and hurt, especially with everything you do for him. He sounds incredibly freaking stupid, a typical 15-year-old. This can become a learning moment for him, to see the pain he causes. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for blowing off my female 19, dad's, male 44, baby's baptism? For context, my parents divorced 5 years ago. My dad remarried last year because he got his girlfriend, female 26, pregnant. I never got along with her, but I was always polite and respectful. They had their baby about 6 months ago and I was secretly devastated, but I still didn't complain. Still, I didn't want anything to do with their son and it made me very uncomfortable when they referred to me as the baby's sister, because I already have a younger brother, 18, who I am close with that my dad abandoned. Last month, my dad told me to go to the baby's baptism. The text he sent me was, "We scheduled the baptism for when you'd be home from college. You must go." The night before the baptism I was a wreck. I hated the idea of going on behalf of a baby that I'm not even happy about. The morning of the baptism, I texted my dad that I wasn't going and grabbed my things from his house because I knew there would be fallout. I retreated to my mom's house as nasty texts came through on my phone. My father and his mother said terrible things to me. He doesn't think he's at fault at all, and that my mother must have poisoned me against him even though I hadn't spoken to my mother about this situation. He told me he never wanted to see me again because I broke my promise of going to the baptism. He stopped responding and it's been a month since. With Father's Day coming up, I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. So am I the for not going to the baptism? Edit, I'd like to clarify some things. 1. My 18-year-old brother is my full brother. My dad signed his rights away saying, "I'm so done with this kid," after my brother said he didn't like my dad's GF. My dad hasn't spoken to my brother in 4 years and wants no contact. He speaks to me because I never complained. 2. I'm not blaming the baby for any of this, but I don't want a relationship with him either. I have no problem with him, but I don't want to deal with my dad or his wife at this point. I don't think the baby will miss me since I'm practically a stranger to him. 3. My dad and I did not have much of a relationship after he started dating his GF. He usually just left me home alone to go do things with her, like taking her on trips or buying her things. I don't say this to be bitter, I say this to indicate that I feel he'd chosen her over me instead of trying to include me. 4. My dad is not religious. He doesn't believe in God. Neither do I. We have never been to church before. His wife is pushing the baptism. Now, here are the comments. Not the idiot. He doesn't get to demand this, so there is no "I must go." You never promised to go. Honestly, it sounds like it's time to start putting some serious distance between you and him. Father's Day? Yeah. No, you can let that one pass right on by. Comment 2. His girlfriend is almost your age and could be his daughter. He also insults you by claiming it's your mom's fault for brainwashing you. If at 19 you cannot make your own mind, then why is he dating someone barely older than you? Does that mean his wife can be easily manipulated and doesn't have the capacity of making her own decisions? Not the idiot now, for the next story. 4. Telling my wife it's time for her to get a job. I'll try and keep this as short as possible. Married with 2 kids, 17 and 8. My wife's excuse is she has to watch take the kids to and from school. I have been holding down all the bills and mortgage. The thing is, money is starting to get tight because inflation and whatnot. Every time I tell him wife I could use help with her finding even the simplest job, she throws a tantrum. We both have college degrees and I'm in my own master's program, right? I need to bring the subject of her finding a job again. How can I do this so she does not throw a tantrum? We're happy and I rather not get a divorce over it. Also thinking of taking on a second job and gave her reaction on that. Okay, I take responsibility for buy a new Tesla and liking expensive shoes. It does not solve the problem that two incomes are better than more. Now, here are the comments. Some observations and questions from the extended comments. 1. You are outspending your income. That's not on her, but you are raining resentment down on her. Seems an unfair perspective with which to approach this conversation. 2. What was your agreement when this arrangement began? What has changed over time? 3. Make sure you are partnering, not parenting your spouse. 4. I think you have skipped a step. You went right to our income is too small, you need to work. But you skipped identifying your combined hopes, dreams, and expectations. That conversation should come first. Then a mutual plan on how to achieve those things follows. Do you both want to travel, for example? Okay, how much does that cost and where will the money come from? How does that compare to your current income? 5. My suggestion is to meet with a marriage counselor and walk through this next phase of life with them. Then meet with a financial counselor and plan this next phase of life. Comment 2. Question is, if she gets a job, how much of the housework and childcare are you willing to cover? Now, for the next story. My wife didn't get me anything for my 40th. My 40th birthday was recently and I planned an entire trip to Puerto Rico with my wife and my father-in-law. I don't generally have my father-in-law come on our vacations, but his birthday was a day after mine and my wife's parents are getting a divorce after 30+ years of marriage. He's been having some issues dealing with it and my mother-in-law was going to Hawaii with her friends, so I felt like it was necessary to invite him so he's not alone on his birthday. For my father-in-law's birthday, I bought all three of us tickets to a major concert with a hotel and a stop at one of his favorite breweries, ahead of time. We had a blast at the beginning of June. I had also invited my brother, his fiancée, and my uncles to go with us. For my brother's 40th, which was only 17 months ago, we all went to Punta Cana and had a weekend bash. We went all out on him. My brother tells me he can't go to mine but then plans a European vacation with his family and his best friend. My uncles just didn't go. I didn't ask for much. A new pair of shoes. But my wife literally bought a cake from a gas station down the street when we randomly stopped on my birthday and we ate it in the hotel room. I thought something more was coming and this was the big build-up, just casually acting like she didn't get me anything so I played along. Then the 4th of July came and went and still nothing. I had given her about 10 ideas ahead of time as I anticipated something special as it's kind of a monumental birthday. It wasn't until after our events on the 4th of July that it finally set in and I realized she really hadn't gotten me anything. I asked her thinking she would let me know it was on its way or something along those lines and nothing. She's now traveling for work and I'm home alone. I feel like poop and I'm struggling to get over it. She's pregnant with our first child and so I don't want to cause her undue stress, but I'm really finding this hard to take and having a tough time dealing. All in all, for my special 40th birthday I got a roll of toilet paper that says, "You are 40, from my dad with no card and in an Amazon bag. I promptly threw this away. Dinner from my mom, which I actually paid half for because that was the same day we told her we were pregnant. Nothing from my wife, father-in-law, brother's fiancé, not even a happy birthday from my uncles. My mother-in-law did get me some shirts from Hawaii and a really cool guitar pick with Hawaii on it. I feel like poop and I feel like I can't even express how upset I actually am. My dad is coming up from FL in a week to be with my brother and I for his birthday and I've cancelled, telling him I'm just not going. Edit. We have established a joint account for vacations, but this trip was mostly, outside of a few dinners, paid for by me. Trying to keep the joint account money for savings goals and kid. Now, here are the comments. I turned 50 in January. Apparently, without a Facebook reminder, no one remembers, including my brother for whom I flew to Miami for his 40th, took him, sister-in-law and nephew to dinner. I didn't even get a text from any of them. Not the idiot comment too. I had to go on a shitty vacation with my in-laws over my 40th, because mother-in-law booked it without considering my birthday. When I objected, my husband said I was acting like a child, even though he knew I'd been planning to throw a big bash as a sort of end of my youth. I wound up spending my big day in a place I didn't want to be, in a house with people I didn't particularly like, and away from my closest friends. Edited to add, not the idiot. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.